Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another musical moment with the old-time rock and roller. In these sessions, I try and tell my stories of the good old days of rock and roll. And what a great life we had. The music made everything great. Now, when I was in junior high school, 7th and 8th grade, I was a scatterbrained kid. My grades were terrible. I had a great imagination, but it wasn't until I picked up the guitar, started my first band, that my mind focused like a laser, and I knew exactly what I was going to do with my life and how it would happen. And it pretty much worked the way I imagined it. Now, when we started playing rock and roll, we thought we would make a lot of money, score a lot of good-looking chicks, have a party all the time, because that's what the Beatles and the Stones were doing. And every kid in America that had a feel for music and any kind of aptitude for an instrument all strived for these same goals. It wasn't until about 13 years after I had been playing music that I found myself in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, at Muscle Shoals Sound Studio. And this is where our story begins. I have a lot of friends that I started with in music, and a lot of friends that I met along the way that were great players. But for one reason or another, luck, timing, they were never able to get in a hit band, have a hit record, maybe even a gold record. So if you were lucky enough to get to that status, or maybe even bigger, you were just on top of the world. So I found myself at Muscle Shoals Sound Studio. I walked in with about a half a dozen albums that I had played on in LA. And Jimmy Johnson came to the back door. He said, "Yeah, can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm Howie McDonald from LA. I'm a guitar player. What's it take to get on a record around here?" Jimmy looked at me, and he had produced the session. Jimmy was a guitar player for the Muscle Shoals Swampers. David Hood was the bass player. Jimmy and David were there, and the secretary, Carol Butkus. They had just finished cutting a song written by George Jackson called Old Time Rock and Roll. The band had gone on a lunch break, and they needed a solo. So Jimmy said, "I just had a feeling about this kid. There was something about him." So I said, "You got your guitar?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Go get it." And I went and I got it and came in and tuned up, and he said, "Just put on the headphones. We're going to run a track down. Let's play along with it. And when I give you the nod, give us a solo." I said, "Okay." So I heard a count off, and I heard a piano play a riff. No band came in, so I heard the piano player play another riff, and all of a sudden the band came in and the vocal came in. Just give me that old time rock and roll. Any session player knows most hit records, and they're able to comp to the style of that particular record. And they look for associations in their mind when they're in the studio. Well, I hear this progression, and it's a 1-4-5, E-A-B, for instance. I was used to playing the Rolling Stones' "We All Need Someone to Lean On," and it was a 1-4-5. And I had a set of licks and solo worked out for that song. The tempo was a little different, but my mind immediately made a musical association, and I played what I did. Well, the record finished. Jimmy said, "Oh, not bad, thanks." leave your phone number with Carol up front in case something happens with the record, and I did. About 4 months later, I get a call from Carol Butkus at the studio, and she said, I need your union card number. And it was Local 47. And she said, Bob Seger just bought the track, and it's coming out on his next album, Stranger in Town, on Capitol Records. And we need to send you a check for your work. I said, wow, this is great. And then I thought back and I said, wow, a year and a half ago I was driving along and I heard Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band doing Rock and Roll Never Forgets. I was a big Chuck Berry fan. And to me, Bob, on some of his songs, kind of modernized Chuck Berry a little bit in the feel. And so I loved him. And here I was, ready, willing, and able to do whatever it took. The phone rang and I was on the record. So I'm thankful today. And we always think about what we don't have, where we should be thinking about what we do have. And that's just the way it goes. So when I learned that this record came out, I ran right down to the record store and I thought, wow, I am going to get a ton of sessions from being on this record. And I opened up the record and it said, thanks to the Muscle Shoals rhythm section. Wasn't exactly what I was hoping for, but nevertheless, here I was on a hit record. Tom Cruise danced in his underwear to it in Risky Business. It made the CNN Song of the Decade. It was the #1 rock and roll jukebox song in the history of the jukebox, like at IHOP and that kind of thing. So I was really, really fortunate. And at this time of this award, it had sold over 5 million copies, which meant that I had been heard by, 50 million people. Who knows? So I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. Number of years went by, and I met a kung fu guy who said, oh yeah, you're Howie McDonald. You played on Old Time Rock and Roll with Bob Seger. And I thought, how the heck did he know that? And evidently, Bob's Greatest Hits came out in 1983. 9 million. So I thought, wow, what incredible luck. What good fortune. What timing. Timing is everything. But you got to have the skill to go with it. Then a number of years later, it wasn't that long ago, actually, within the last 5 or 6 years, I think Bob Seger's Ultimate Hits came out. And this is a great compilation and another incredible honor. You never know how things are going to work out in your life, but you always have to have faith. I have a friend, just a little off topic. He was a great singer, guitar player from LA that was actually from New Hampshire. And I went up to visit him once touring around, and he said, hey, you're married now, right? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, how come you're still playing music? And I said, Mark, because I love it. What are you talking about? And he said, oh, I thought the only reason we played guitar was to score chicks. I said, no, man, it's about the love that you generate from the music and that you give out to the people who listen to it. And then recently, because Chuck Berry had influenced Bob Seger so much, he actually was on the Voyager 1 and 2, which sent rock music beyond the galaxy out into space. And this was from NASA. So you never know what's going to happen. Now, I've had a great 57-year career. I'm sort of in the twilight of the run, so to speak. There's a lot of new people up and coming. But give me that old-time rock and roll any day, baby. That's the kind of music that soothes my soul. So keep a song in your head and love in your heart, and I will see you down the musical story highway on the next adventure of the old-time rock and roller. And, by the way, that is why I got my moniker, the old-time rock and roller. Now you know the rest of the story. So long, my friends.